One of the things I want to do is I want to take a sec and take a few questions, and then I want to share a couple of things that will help you really kind of pull it all together. But I wanted to hold just a second and get a few questions.
Yeah, Cody, so we have a question from George. Who should I contact about diversity in my organization?
There is a link, and you can contact me directly. I'm happy to chat with you. We've got a calendar link that will be provided, or it should have been provided in the webinar, and we'll get your name and be able to reach out and schedule a time. I've got time set aside to talk to everyone who can't join this webinar and to go into a little bit more detail. I know we've covered it high level.
Thanks. Sally asks, what do I need to do to get more candidates for my positions?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sally. It's really about knowing where to look, getting the outreach done and sourcing done for those candidates. We look at diversity very broadly, and then you narrow down to some of the pools and the demographics of where the talent sits. And using some of the tools that I've talked about, there's certainly lots more, but I'm happy to spend some time with you and share more about some of the tips and tricks that allow you to get more candidates. Because one of the challenges today is most of the candidates are in plain sight. The challenge is getting the candidates to engage, and we've got some approaches that we can share with you on how you get that candidate engaged using some automation and other tools.
And just a quick reminder to those that are joining us, please type any questions that you have into the chat area, and we'll get them answered. I have a few more questions, Cody. Question from Juan. Should we post on diversity job sites, or does that even work anymore?
Yeah, Juan, I would definitely say you want to post the jobs in places that the candidates might be in. So posting on a number of diversity job sites definitely is one way to get more exposure. What the challenge is a lot of, with the unemployment rate being what it is today, lots of candidates out there, but they're not applying to jobs. Most of the candidates that you're going to find are going to be passive candidates. And so it's good to have certainly a posting strategy, but it also makes sense to have a search and a sourcing strategy and knowing where to look for those candidates.
All right, got a question from Sam. What's the one diversity event every large organization should participate in every year?
Wow. I think that's a tough question. It depends on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. So that one diversity event, I think it's hard to say what that one should be. What I think is important is to get to an event where there are recruiters and diversity recruiters specifically that can share more about some of the events. So some of the big events, if you go to an organization like National Black MBA, you're going to get business-minded people as well as former engineers, because a lot of people, when they start as engineer, they progress their career into the business world. And so that's an example of an event. I can also provide a list of a number of organizations that have events, so that you can decide what organization makes sense and what event makes sense.
Sue asks, so what diversity organization should we engage with, or where can we look for a list of those organizations?
Yeah, if you just do a search on your search engine, you're going to find a long list. But I've got a list that I'm happy to share with the group on a lot of different organizations that are out there that might be helpful.
Juanita asks, how do I participate in a diversity event if my company wants to actually participate?
Yeah, most of the organizations that have these events, they have on their website when their events are going to be. They also have information on if you want to be a sponsor or if you're just looking to be an attendee, they have information there. Some of the events are pricey. One of the tricks that you could use is if you are interested in engaging with one of those organizations, is certainly go build a relationship, but you can also look for members of that organization and ask questions of them, of why they participate in the organization, how they feel about it, what's been the benefit of being part of that. But most of the organizations have instructions on their website on how to participate.
George asked another question. How does your company work with customers to help them with diversity?
Yeah, what we do is we actually work as an extension of the recruiting team. So our goal is to help the recruiting team be most successful. And the work that we do specifically is around sourcing and screening candidates. So we go out, we find the candidates, we include diversity as part of our slate. If we need to focus on a specific demographic that the client is looking for or they're trying to solve for, we put more energy into that demographic for them. We qualify the candidate, we screen them, and we present them to the client. In addition, we give the client all the candidate profiles so that even if they're not hiring today, they can keep the profiles so that when they are hiring, they've already got that data.
Great. Sherry asks, do you recruit only for diverse candidates?
You know, we really broadly. We recruit. We're a sourcing organization, so we're going to source a broad number of candidates. We just make diversity sourcing part of our normal workflow, and so we're going to look broadly at the talent pool for the organization. So you remember I said start with the end in mind. So starting with the end in mind may be, here's an example. A company says, we need to hire more software developers who are Python developers. And we are also trying to increase the number of women Python developers in our organization. So for us, for that company, success looks like hiring more Python developer, including more women in that hiring process, and getting those candidates hired. So that's the diversity part. And then the other part, the handoff, is making sure that when people start, they've got a great onboarding and they're going to stay, and they feel like they've got career development. So we look at everyone. We look very broadly at diversity. And when I say broadly at diversity, I mean, we're looking at not just gender and ethnicity. We're looking at people's preferences, orientation, personal pronouns. We're looking very broadly. Age, there's all these demographics that we look at. Sometimes the client wants to fix a certain deficiency that they might have in their workforce because they want to represent, they want to be reflective of their customer base.
Okay. Betty asks, how do we focus on diversity when we have no budget for it?
Yeah, that's always the trick, right? So diversity recruiting is like any other talent acquisition effort. You have to make the investment as a company to hire, right? And so this is a little bit of a litmus test to decide, is it worth engaging if your leadership doesn't provide any budget for the work that you're gonna do? If you've got a limited budget, then you could use some of the free tools that are out there. There's lots of information out there. There's lots of research out there. Outreach, you can use different outreach that doesn't cost you anything. So you can get the process started. I would say to challenge, though, if there's no budget allocated for any of it, then I would challenge the leadership on how important it is, because if it's worth investing, if it's worth doing, it's worth making the investment in. And so I can certainly give you information that might help you answer some of the questions that you may get around budgeting and how you prioritize. And that's where, even if you don't have a budget, having this framework is critical, because then it lets you take the limited budget and resources that you have, and you can prioritize the work and take it one step at a time as you move forward in the process.
So Betty has a follow-up question, and her follow-up question is, can she set an appointment with you and have this conversation, maybe help direct her?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a link, and we'll make sure we get the link to you for the appointment. You can certainly send me an email. I'm going to put my email address back up here. You can send me an email it's Cody@diverserecruitingexperts.com, and I'll reply with my calendar link. We've got some time blocked out for meetings, and I'm happy to talk with anyone.